Hello, everyone. Welcome to the League One Lowdown podcast. This is the review show. Myself, Jamie Johnson, here, as always, with Seb Jones. Seb, how are you?
Yes, very good. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, happy to be back on the review show. I was on the preview show earlier on this week alongside Sam, so it's nice to be back amongst home comforts. How about yourself? How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you. Double duty for you this week, so a busy one, and it might be double duty for me. We'll plug this in early next week because we've got a special interview coming to the podcast with Gary Bowyer, the Burton Albion manager. We won't be talking about them on this podcast because obviously their game at the weekend was postponed against Exeter City. But yeah, do keep an eye out for that if you're on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you follow along. If you subscribe, put the notifications on because that podcast will drop over the next couple of weeks. Myself and Callum from the preview show will be speaking to Gary Bowyer. Now, if you have any questions as well, head over to Twitter or X, I guess I should say, and you can put your questions in there. There's a post there where you can attach your questions if you have any burning desire to ask Gary Bowyer anything in particular. But for this podcast, we're going to talk about, as usual, our 6 games in detail and have a whip round the others at the end. And we're going to start with something you'll be delighted about, Seb, of course, which is Barnes' 5-0 hammering of Luton Town.
Yeah, 5-star performance here from the Reds. Sort of came out of the blue, really, a bit unexpected. We know Luton have not been on the best of runs beforehand. I think they were on an unbeaten run, but never sort of blew teams away as such. I think it was for 5 in total unbeaten in all competitions before they came to Oakwell. They sort of come a little bit out of the blue in terms of the results and then lose 5-0. Yeah, and as a Barnes fan as well, sort of didn't quite expect that result either. I think things have been a bit inconsistent. I know it does make it now 2 league wins in a row, but amongst all that, we've had games called off for international break. There's been a few EFL Trophy games in there as well. That of course we've had the FA Cup rounds as well. So I guess the past month or so has been a bit sort of stop-starty for Barnsley. So for actually for things to sort of go in the way of the Reds and emphatically go in the way of the Reds, it's really good to see. And it was 5, but could have been more. Jürgen Nathan hit the post twice. Keeler Dunn had a couple of good chances as well from his point of view. He'll be sort of gutted to have missed those. So yeah, really dominant display from Barnsley. 5 goals scored in total, 4 of them different goal scorers, and one of them was an own goal in what was quite a messy goal conceded by Luton. But yeah, really positive display and a clean sheet, a first clean sheet at home since February, and only a second clean sheet of the season. And we're sort of nearing the end of November. So yeah, it's a clean sheet. I think will please Conor Harry. He said sort of the end of the game that you know. The Luton bench, I think, were getting a bit annoyed at him because he's so adamant that he wanted that clean sheet towards the end of the game, to sort of, urging his players towards the end, as it got to stoppage time, just to hold firm and just to not do anything silly, basically, I think. So the clean sheet, I think, will be a massive boost defensively. We've had a few sort of few combinations at the back, so to get that clean sheet will be good, and obviously to score 5 against the Luton side who were in good form. Massive victory for Barnsley there.
Yeah, the clean sheet, a good marker, I think, for Barnes' progress. They're up to 9th in the table, but for Luton, a little bit of a reality check, I would call this. You mentioned it yourself there, Seb. There were 5 games unbeaten before this one, and it's Wilshire's first defeat since his debut. They lost on his debut in the dugout against Mansfield, and since then it's been 5 games without defeat before this one. A real thumping defeat as well. Back-to-back wins in the division for Barnsley. This one I would call much more convincing than their victory away to Doncaster, where, as we talked about on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, they were fortunate to get all 3 points in that game. They were quick and dangerous on the break, Barnsley, just like they were against Doncaster, actually. Helped a little bit by poor Luton defending at times. The Patrick Kelly goal, the second one of the 5, that was really poor defending. It was Naismith, I think, who just let his man goal side. The cardinal sin of defending a ball across the 6-yard box. And that was a nice little finish there. A beautiful free kick from Luke O'Connell. Sealed the game, really. That was just before half-time. And 3-0 at the break. It was game over. The scramble of an own goal for the 4th. And then Davies Keeler rounding out the scoring on the counter-attack. And that was a theme for me. The first and the last goal sort of capitalising on mistakes and rushing forward, and they are so quick on that transition, Barnsley.
Yeah.
That is a real asset for them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've sort of rattled through there in terms of Barnes' goals. Probably could have been avoided from a Luton point of view. You look at that Kelly tap in to make it 2. There was, like I said, the players that could have got that. The corner free kick, as good as free kick as was, actually, it's really poor positioning from the goalkeeper. He sort of stood on the other side of the goal. When it's a free kick, it was sort of central slightly to the right. It was left-footed as well. It was sort of obvious it was going to go up and over the wall, and the keeper was on the other side of his goal line, and he didn't even move when the sort of shot came in. It was a bit of a poor effort, I think, from Keeley in the Luton goal, and then again you mentioned that on goal as well. That was just sloppy and being open at the counter attack. You could argue that's poor defending, but it's just the quality of Barnsley in terms of going forward. Like you said, they just didn't know what to do with themselves. The full-backs, well, the sort of the back 3, the 2 on either side, struggled to deal with. It was raised Cleary above to Barnes' left wing and Jürgen Nathan on the right, but then also Patrick Kelly pushed forward. So actually, it was just an onslaught, I think, for the Luton defence to deal with, and they just couldn't handle it really because of Barnes' momentum and because of Barnes' force in their attacking point of view. They sat back a little bit and pushed forward on the counter attack, and that seemed to really work really well, and not only attacking, defensively as well, because Luton just didn't get anything going forward. So there's a real sort of game plan from kind of Howard, and it's worked a treat both defensively and attackingly.
Yeah, and they're playing to their strengths, aren't they? I mentioned Jürgen Nathan there and Cleary. They're so quick and they're so direct once they get the ball. And Kilo Dunn, he's going to put the ball in the back of the net if you give him the chance. They had 4 big chances in the game, and obviously 5 goals. One of those an own goal. Only 31% possession, Barnes, and that speaks to that proficiency on the counter attack. They don't need to hog the ball because when they get it, they can very quickly make their way up the field. You, as we mentioned at the top, Seb, you're on the preview podcast this week, and I'm going to ask you to put your preview hat back on because next week it's away to Stockport County. They lost pretty convincingly themselves against Peterborough on Thursday night. Is this a sign, this victory against Luton? Is it a sign of things to come? Do you think Barnsley can kick on and beat another big hitter in Stockport next weekend?
Yeah, well, I think up until that result, I think Stockport was still top of the table, and they're now down to 4th in the league, but still only 1 point off the top of the table. Stockport a very good side. We mentioned, I think this time last week, in terms of there's been a few disruptions to the Stockport side. So whether that is sort of the cracks starting to show a little bit, because they sort of the result on Thursday was a bit of a surprise in terms of Peterborough grabbing victory. So yeah. With my Barnsley hat on, I'm going to say absolutely, yeah. Sort of let's get to Stockport while they're down, basically, in terms of already suffered defeat, few sort of injuries and few players unavailable. So absolutely not. But it's always tough going to Stockley Park, and they've been a real Edgeley Park, Stockley Park, the VAR, but yeah, Edgeley Park. They've been a real sort of force. Up until last week, they've been a real sort of force in the league and were last season as well. So it will be tough, but absolutely Barnsley have got. You couldn't be any more of a high, any more of a cloud 9 than winning a side 5-0 and keeping a clean sheet in that.
Yeah, no, definitely that. And just to round us out, in terms of Luton, they play Huddersfield on Tuesday before Bolton at the weekend. 2 big games back to back, and it'll be interesting to see how they reassess after this one, because this is it could be a bump in the road, or it could be a real difference maker in terms of their form to come. So we'll see how Luton progress over the next couple of weeks. And the same can be said for our next team to talk about, which is Plymouth Argyle. Finally a victory for them. Their losing run of 6 defeats in a row comes to an end. It's Tolaj, of course, it's Tolaj with the goal. 1-0 against Port Vale, his former team, actually, coming back to haunt his former side with a really decent finish. 18 seconds into the second half of a pretty poor game. So picking the bones out of it, I guess, it's Port Vale, who are now bottom of the table, as Plymouth leapfrog them and finally get a tick of green in their column.
Yeah, and a very sort of much needed tick of green alongside their club on the table. It's been a run of 6 defeats in all competitions in total prior to the Port Vale game, obviously an FA Cup and an EFL Trophy in that as well. But the morale really must have been pretty low at Plymouth, and there were calls for Cleverley's head, as as there has been since the start of the season. It's been sort of a stop-start season really for Plymouth so far this campaign, but they've got a win behind them finally. I mean, it's only their 5th win of the season now, 16 games so far this season. So even still, sort of, it's not been great, but they could easily use this as a springboard, as a platform going forward. You mentioned sort of they're now leapfrogging Port Vale. They're in a dangerous position, but they need to use this as a bit of forward. Plymouth as a squad are too good to be in this bottom 4 of the division. I know that you could argue the same for Blackpool and Peterborough, who are in the bottom 4 as well at the minute. But they have to get themselves out of there and get themselves out of there quick before there sort of becomes a bit of a gap from safety. I mean, at the minute they are only 1 point from safety, but that could, especially as we enter sort of the running around Christmas and New Year and the winter season, games coming thick and fast every 2-3 days. So the gap could easily get extended. So they have to sort of use this as a victory to go forward and basically just turn on its head the 6 defeats in a row beforehand.
A nice Seb Jones springboard there.
Springboard, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, but that is the key, isn't it? It's all about how they carry on. I mean, we've been not so complimentary about Tom Cleverley, and rightfully so, because they've been really struggling at Plymouth so far this season. In this one, I think on the balance of things, I'd say they deserve the 3 points, though. Devante Cole had a good chance to score in the first half. Patton forced a really decent save out of Hazard in the second. He had a good game between the sticks. Important aspect of keeping that clean sheet and ensuring this victory with just the 1 goal. But without Tolads, they're toothless, and he is the key man, and there's a reason Plymouth rely on him, really. A quick word on Port Vale. They are now bottom after this defeat. They have 1 win out of 8 games in all competitions, and that was against non-league opposition in the FA Cup. So it's not happy reading at all for Darren Moore's team. How long will this stretch go on, do you reckon? Because they're making chances. I said Devante Cole had a decent one in this game. And when he first came into the club after deadline day, he was putting them all away. Now, maybe not so much. And that is adding that pressure on, isn't it? Because they're not converting.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned sort of the poor form as well. They've not won in the league since the end of September. So we're now nearly 2 months on. And that was against Barnsley. So we'll stay quiet about that. But and still, it's still a long time to go without any sort of victory in that. You mentioned Devante Cole as well. He's a quality player, but maybe it's just catching up on him. The level of job that he's got in terms of leading this Port Vale line, in terms of when options are limited, when chances are limited, it's totally falling on him to seal the deal.
I guess it's that over-reliance we say with Tolads. It's a similar situation.
Exactly, yeah. This is 2 sides with an over reliance on their forwards at the minute. Yeah, Tolaj and Cole respectively, but just Port Vale, I don't really see an urge. I don't really see like a fight that perhaps you would see. I don't see. I struggle really for them to see them get out of this situation that they're in. It's been a really poor start to the season for the Dartmoor side. 3 wins so far this season. I know they were never expected to sort of be running away with it in terms of, only for the playoffs, but just sort of something to go, oh, actually, we've seen this performance. They've looked really good. Don't write off Port Vale just yet. I've not seen that. And that's what you need when you are a side sort of down there. You need something to hold on to, a bit of a spark. I know they have Devante Cole, but apart from that, there's not really too much to be positive about at Port Vale.
Yeah. Well, obviously for Plymouth, they'll be hoping they're turning a corner.
We'll move on now to chat about Huddersfield, and we mentioned the side that have just turned the corner. Well, a side that have turned the corner for a fair few weeks is Huddersfield Town. They continue to turn that corner with a good victory away from home against Mansfield. Dominant display, particularly in that first 20 minutes. They scored 3 inside that time. And I guess the pressure off League One at the minute, Jamie?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, there was that early barrage, wasn't there? There's 3 goals inside 16 minutes, and the game was done by then, really. They were carving open that Mansfield defence, really clinical and showing the evidence of all this promise we have for Lee Grant's team. So, yeah, really impressive stuff from Huddersfield and much needed. They're turning a couple of victories into now a run of form. 3 in a row is beginning to show that impetus that we've been expecting from them.
Yeah, they're now up to 7th in the league table. They're 8 wins from 15 as well. And I guess for me, 3 different goal scorers in this one. One of them scored the second goal, Dion Charles. He's been sort of a bit of an interesting part of Huddersfield's setup over recent weeks. It's sort of the manager didn't really play him well. He signed into last season, but he's not really been played by Lee Grant. And then when he has been played, he's sort of been played out of position. But now he's sort of being played back in his preferred attacking position. He's actually playing sort of just behind Radulovic, sort of like a bit of a front 2, but technically Charles is just behind. But it's now he's on a good form at the minute. It's now 4 goals in his last 3 appearances, and he's really sort of showing the quality that we know he can bring.
Yeah, exactly that. And he's been one of those players who probably hasn't been performing as well as they should be for Huddersfield. I guess you could put a Lash Sorensen into that category. He was another one of the 3 goal scorers. He has all this promise, and he did so well at Lincoln in Sorensen's case before coming to Huddersfield, and just hasn't quite hit the heights of where he was previously. So it's all about really for Lee Grant. Your initial question was about him, and he's been under pressure himself before this recent uptick of results, that it's about getting the most out of these players that we know are good enough. And there's got a lot of quality in that team, and it's just about extracting that. And in this game, it certainly seems they managed it.
Yeah, and just a quick word for Mansfield before we move on. It's now 3 defeats in the bounce in all competitions. A concern, or is it one of those that we just sort of expect Mansfield to go through a good form and then through a bad patch of form?
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? I'll agree with that, sort of the latter statement there. It's back-to-back league defeats now. Evans scored one late, but it was too little, too late in the end. And yeah, it's a bad patch of form, but as long as it doesn't extend too far, like Doncaster's, then it really won't be too much of a concern. They come and go for Mansfield, don't they? These sort of issues, and they'll win a few games in a row, then they'll lose, and that's sort of where they sit within League One.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, lucky we're not talking about Rovers in detail today. You've been let off.
That was
from
a very
one.
boring game, and the goalless draw against Stevenage, so I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, you've been let off that one. So we'll move on now. That was a 4-goal thriller. We're going to move now to a 5-goal thriller in the game between Wycombe Wanderers and Lincoln City. Lots to unpack in this one. I guess, first of all, Michael Duff, another victory as Wycombe manager.
Yeah, and it's now the best start to a managerial reign in the EFL for Wycombe. So he's obviously doing really, really well. And that's just another barometer. They have 1 defeat in 11, and that was against Fulham in the EFL Cup. And they're just doing so well, aren't they? It's 7 League One games now without defeat. And they maybe weren't excellent in this first half. They were very good. And Bell had a brace before half-time. Lincoln, though, rallied in the second half, got it back to 2-2. But my other point being that Wycombe showed character, and they came back again and retook the lead with that third, the 88th minute winner from Grimmer. It was a corner that bobbled somehow all the way through the box, and he tapped it in at the back post. And I've got a couple of bits on Lincoln, but in terms of Wycombe, it's the character. Not only are these results, it's the manner of them and the way they managed to come back from that jolt of going down to getting back to 2-2, I beg your pardon, that is really impressive for me out of this one.
Yeah, really good from Wycombe. They haven't suffered a defeat in all competitions since the end of September. So we mentioned that for Port Vale when they last won, to not suffer defeat across that time, nearly 2 months. That's a really long stretch, and obviously that's coupled with Michael Duff arriving. So he just continues to go from strength to strength from a Wycombe point of view. They're sort of in a false position a bit at the table, that they're 10th, but I'm sure they will quickly rise up the rankings. As for Lincoln, you mentioned sort of they rallied in this one. They pegged it back to a draw, but not good enough to hang on for a victory in this one.
Yeah, two substitutes with the goals, Draper and Ibiku. They both went close to scoring again as well. So it could have been a very different story had those chances fell differently. But I think with Lincoln, my overall piece is that they're not perhaps as good as the league table suggests. I would go as far to say it's a false position for Lincoln, just like it is for Wycombe. They're up in third. They were first at one point after Stockport's defeat on Thursday. They goal difference without playing bumped them up to the top of the table, but they didn't look great against Doncaster. They were good enough on the day against a poor, at times, Doncaster outfit, especially defensively. And then in this one, they just aren't quite at that level. But my counter, I guess to counter my own argument, being the return of Jack Moylan. I think he's a very key player and he could push them through these winter months where they do tend, it's one of those curious sort of stats over recent years where they always tend to struggle in and around Christmas. Well, Jack Moylan coming back could help offset that. He looked really good in the second half after coming on, close to scoring himself in this one. So that's my positive and I guess my negative for Lincoln. If you like, but in the end, maybe a difficult defeat because they probably didn't deserve it. I think a point would have been fair in terms of this game, but obviously not how it fell in the end. And Lincoln will have to pick themselves up after that because, they'll have been hoping to stay where they were, of course.
Yeah, pretty poor goal for them to concede so late on in
Yeah.
the game as well, and sort of having gone from earning what you would class as a solid point away at Wycombe to then sort of come home with nothing basically. So
It's the basis
more,
of defending a cross, isn't
exactly,
it? That third goal.
Yeah, a bit more resolute defending, especially in the late stages. Wouldn't go amiss for Lincoln.
But it looked an interesting game. I mean, the 5-goal thriller you mentioned, obviously at the top of this segment, but there could have been a lot more than that as well. Both teams had their chances, and it just looked a very entertaining game. And Lincoln aren't always involved in those. They do like sort of a low-scoring affair at times, but this one definitely more of the entertaining side of things. Wycombe, of course, getting the points, and that's the crucial thing, isn't it? In terms of how well Wycombe are doing, and it's how well they're prolonging this. I think that's sort of worth dwelling on at least momentarily, because you mentioned they're into 10th. They were obviously so far down the table before Michael Duff came in, and they're just slowly and steadily climbing, and they're getting up to where their form indicates they should be.
Definitely, yeah, and well, you mentioned in terms of the attacking outlets at both Lincoln and Wycombe. I'm not surprised to sort of finished a 5-goal thriller because of the qualities that both sides have at their disposal in terms of the attacking point of view and the counter-attacking options that they have up front. Obviously, a few of which on the score sheet as well. So yeah, an entertaining one. Plenty of goals across the games in terms of League One fixtures on Saturday, and sort of it was a bit of a tough decision to narrow it down to the best 6, if you like.
It makes a change. It's usually the other way around. They're usually scrambling for a 5th or a 6th game. But yeah, there've been very entertaining games across the weekend.
It does, yeah. We'll move on to our next one. This one not quite a 5-goal thriller. There was 4 goals scored, but what would we call it a thriller? I think this was a domination in the game between Northampton and Cardiff. Cardiff, after a bit of a blip, I think, over the past few weeks, continue to show that they are a force to be reckoned with.
I think you've been pretty sort of generous there, because I was going to go the other way and say that maybe the scoreline was suggested a wider gap than there actually was between the two teams. The 3rd goal for Cardiff came very late on, as after they caught Northampton on the break, with everyone pushed forward trying to find that equaliser. And up the other end, they managed. It was Chris Willock who scored that 3rd goal. Good finish, actually. But yeah, catching Northampton sort of short at the back But I guess most importantly, Cardiff, they're back to the top of the table. They've rebounded from consecutive league defeats. They've had a lot of cup games and an international break, so that these 2 league defeats have been quite spread out. But they had lost 2 league games in a row before this one. Wheatley curiously found the back of both nets within about 3 or 4 minutes of each other, with an own goal for Cardiff as well as a finish of his own. Colville got the scoring started early on in the game, and he's obviously a very important player, Joel Colville. But Ruben Colville injured. 20th minute, he went off with an ankle problem. So we wait and see how serious that is. And that is the real concern out of this game, because it's an important victory. You mentioned yourself, Seb, to sort of to team me up in terms of it's an important one after these poor results. The only negative being that injury. But yeah, a little bit of a disagreement there. I think that the scoreline flatters Cardiff rather than anything else.
Yeah, well, either way, the result does take them back to the top of the table.
Yeah.
Although that itself, I think, flatters him, because there's three teams behind them, just 1 point off. So I don't think it's as statement as perhaps it sounds. But it does mean that after consecutive league defeats, they go back to the top of the table. Bradford, Lincoln, and Stockport are the teams that are behind them. It's interesting because I guess with those 2 defeats, a bit of pressure on Brian Murphy in terms of, we spoke right at the start of the season as to how he was going to fare. We sort of didn't think he was going to do all that great. He's proven us all wrong. But then actually, when that blip came about, you think, okay, how does he react here? Basically, he's first real challenge for him as Cardiff City manager, but then to come off the back of that with a victory like this, he'll be happy to get the ball rolling after several disruptions, like I said, the cup matches and international breaks as well. It is a bit of stop-starter, similar to Barnsley, really, stop-starter, but he'll be happy now to get the win on the floor, plenty of fixtures ahead of him, and hopefully can get a good run going.
Yeah, exactly that. And some interesting quotes from him after the game. He said, we had to show different sides to our character. We showed a clear sign of how resilient we can be. And I'm very proud of the players for that. This was a good test, and there'll be many more tests along the way. And I think that speaks a little bit to your point there, that they've had to sort of really fight for this victory. And they got it in the end. And yeah, one that could help them turn the corner back. I mean, it seems daft saying that for a team that are top of the table. But if anything, that shows sort of where the league is. You can lose a lot of games and still be up there. And maybe those losses aren't as consequential because everyone's really bunched together. Northampton had their chances in this game. I guess to flip back to them, Edit List forced a really nice save after coming on, and they actually had the better XG out of the 2 teams. So some little sort of quirks, I guess, to this one in terms of how the stats read. But the top and bottom of it is an important away from home victory for Cardiff.
Yes, definitely so, and they are back on the top of the table, as I mentioned earlier on. Final game we'll look at in detail is the match between Wimbledon and Wigan Athletic. AFC Wimbledon, that is, of course. Wigan came out with this one victorious. It's interesting because me and Sam alluded to Wigan as a team in the previous show in terms of they've been a bit disappointing, really, not only this season, but ever really since Ryan Lowe's taken over. The quality that he has as a manager, the credentials have not really come to fruition yet at Wigan as such. I mean, as we discussed it, there's sort of a few reasons because of that. But as soon as we mentioned that, they're going to grab 3 points.
Yeah, and the story of this game is the goal scorer, isn't it? 18-year-old academy graduate Harrison Batoni. He came off the bench, and with his very first touch in league action for Wigan, scored a free kick. And it was a really nice free kick as well. And then he scored the second one as well, getting on the end of a really delightful Mullin flick. That was sort of vintage stuff. And he runs onto it and slides the ball home. Both goals he celebrates near enough in the stands. Perhaps another strong academy product to add to the list for Wigan. He can play left and right wing, attacking midfield as well. 3 appearances in the EFL Trophy. This, though, is first in the league. And what an impact. I mean, there's instant impacts and then there's scoring with your first touch of the ball. Incredible stuff. And the architect of this victory, turnaround victory it was for Wigan.
Yeah, definitely, and it's amazing, really, because he came off the bench in the pretty late stage. I think it was 77th minute or something like that, and like his first touch is to bang that free kick into the back of the net, and you just think, wow, the impact that he's had, and then to go and grab a second, amazing, really. Yeah, as a lad at such a young age, and yeah, to basically be the difference, because Wigan were losing at that point. They were 1-0 down. Probably the manager, Ryan Law, just thought, oh, just give him a chance, see what he can do. And yeah, up he pops, grabbing 2 goals, does Bertoni. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be really pleased. But you mentioned, yeah, really good quality to have amongst their ranks, only 18 years of age. 13 minutes played, 2 goals scored. And yeah, really good player for Wigan to have. Before the game, I think I saw some fans on X Twitter saying how nice it was to see Wigan start with a front 2. I think it's something that they've actually just started as one person leading the line, but Costello and Sadie leading up front for Wigan, and it's obviously come to fruition with a good win altogether. I guess as for Wimbledon, they'll be disappointed, won't they, to take the lead and then to concede that the second goal for Wigan was only scored 3 minutes from full time. It's about holding the defensive line, and they just weren't able to do that, were they?
Yeah, they've been struggling a little bit as of late. It's 3 league defeats now without victory. They've only scored the 1 goal. That obviously coming in this game. Alice Smith with it over that stretch. So they've hit a little bit of a rough patch, and perhaps again they were one of these front runners at the start of the season that maybe they're sort of being caught up with, and they're now sliding towards where they maybe should be in the grand scheme of things. The only other thing I wanted to mention in terms of Wigan, this unbelievably their first away win of the season. That elusive away win finally arrives. And as much as Bertoni, the goal scorer, had a massive impact in that, Francois in midfield as well is worth a mention, replacing the much missed Matt Smith, who's out sort of injured. So he was important as much as Bertoni, the goal scorer, was as well. They had their chances early on, but that sort of flurry of action in the second half, with Smith scoring and then the 2 not long afterwards, that really sort of frantic spell of the game. But I wouldn't read too much into it for Wimbledon. I see what you think about it, Seb, but it could be similar really to what we were talking about Mansfield earlier, that these patches of form are naturally going to happen through such a long season.
Yeah, I would argue the same as well. For them, it's 4 defeats altogether in the last 5 in all comps. But before that, they were on sort of quite a long stretch, 4 or 5 games unbeaten. So yeah, I agree. Similar to Mansfield, sort of it will ebb and flow. I think they start the season surprisingly well, really, and then yeah, a bit more of a reality check, I guess, after season's gone on. But yeah, I think it will just ebb and flow. That's just the nature of the beast. Wimbledon, they've not got the quality to really be pushing for that top 6, top 8, if you like. But then actually, the squad is too good to be within that relegation fight. So I think they'll be somewhere in the middle, sort of come the end of the season. But yeah, it's just one of those that they'll be looking to get a good victory as quick as possible, I think, after a few poor results consecutively. So yeah, I agree with you there in terms of Wimbledon. Now, just to sum up the other results elsewhere that took place in League One. We covered this earlier, but obviously on the Thursday night fixture, again, another topic me and Sam spoke about in the preview podcast, but Peterborough, surprising victors over Stockport County, 3-0 winners. They were in that one, obviously, a pretty new manager there, Luke Williams, showing his quality. Finished Bolton Wanderers 0, Bradford City 0. I'm sure the big crowd there, wasn't there? I'm sure they'll have been there.
About 26,000, wasn't it? So I mean, that is
Yeah.
worth sort of, I guess, dwelling on. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
League
yeah,
One football attracting so many people.
definitely.
For a goalless draw, maybe not as exciting, but it's a great recognition of how well the league's doing and how big some of the teams in it are.
Yeah, definitely. They will absolutely be disappointed, but with 2 good sides there going head to head, and I'm sure they'd expected a little bit more. Finished 1 apiece between Leyton Orient and Blackpool. Slight controversy here, though, wasn't there, with the red card and the Blackpool leveller? Interesting. I guess just quickly, have you seen this one? What do you reckon?
Yeah, some strange ones. I'm not too sure on it really. I mean, we talked a lot about referee decisions involving Leighton Orient last weekend. I don't know if it's becoming some sort of theme. Sam wasn't best pleased, is how I would describe it in our WhatsApp chat on Saturday night. But yeah, that same sort of problems coming back to haunt them in terms of referee decisions. This one, they don't sort of. They obviously won last week in spite of it. This time, not so much. There was that strange incident with the long throw that was taken with someone in the crowd pulling the Blackpool player back while they were trying to take the throw. So there's a lot of weird things going on in this game. It's definitely that. But yeah, I'm not too sure myself. The next game on our list of other results, some weird stuff going on post match in that one with the fireworks at Reading. Very strange there as well.
I have seen that. Yeah. Reading won. Rotherham United one was the full time score. Yeah, sort of some sort of display, wasn't it, around the inside the stadium? Some sort of firework light display.
It was announced beforehand, wasn't it? Rob Kuhig announced it in AI video on Twitter, which was weird in itself. And then there was going to be a fireworks display after the game, and they drew 1-1 to Rotherham. So it's just what you want after a 1-1 draw to an injury depleted Rotherham is a fireworks display. I did see a pretty funny comment on Twitter, someone saying, just imagine what it would have been like had we won the fireworks display. But yeah, a bit strange there.
To be fair, the goal scored from Reading was a bit of a cracker. To be fair, from
very good.
Charlie Savage, sort of on the half volley from distance. So yeah, that itself I think deserved a firework display. Goalless between Stevenage and Doncaster at the Lamex, as you said earlier, a bit of a bottle draw, nothing to add to that really, apart from Doncaster's search for a win still goes on.
Thanks for the reminder. And we've got Plymouth. We've got Peterborough, beg your pardon, next week. And it doesn't get any easier. Obviously, a resurgent Peterborough side. Under Luke Williams. So yeah, not looking forward to that. I have to say. Bore draw would be the words for it. I mean, if we can't beat Stevenage, were poor on the day, and we didn't get anything out of it. So a disappointing one.
Yeah, and then of course the game that would have been the lunchtime kickoff, one of the lunchtime kickoffs, Exeter against Burton Albion, obviously postponed due to the fire at the ground earlier on this week. So that is it. Sort of that's the run through of the games and all the talking points that took place over the previous game week in League One. If you were at a game, let us know. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review, however you're listening or watching this podcast. As Jamie plugged earlier on, he will be back with Callum next week interviewing the Burton Albion manager, Gary Boyer. And then Sam and Callum will might be back with their usual preview episode, I am sure. But then myself and Jamie obviously back next week with the usual review show. So yes, that is everything from us. Until then, have a good one.